brother has not been answering texts or cell phone calls.
I am very concerned for my brother, Craig.
They're investigating a missing person. The idea that there was acid involved, that was vicious.
This case is the story of a movie. Some of it was too hard to even believe.
No one deserves what they did.
"50-year-old IT specialist Craig Rideout
Hello.
shares a special bond with sister Robin.
How are the kids?
Yeah, the kids are fine.
Growing up, it was very much family-oriented. My brother is a fun guy. My kids adored my brother.
Craig married wife Laura in 1993 and started a family of his own. Eldest son Colin was followed by 3 girls and 3 more boys, including middle son Alex.
My brother and sister-in-law had 7 kids, and through having a lot of kids comes occasionally some financial difficulties. So he worked a lot of hours, and as such, almost became an absentee father. That got difficult. In 2014, Craig was presented with divorce papers. He was living his life to take care of his youngest kids that it was looking like he was going to be getting sole custody of, and was hoping to build bridges with the older kids. He was doing everything in his power to be the kind of parent that those kids would need.
Robin helps Craig whenever she can, and now they're closer than ever.
Over the past 2 years of him going through his divorce, we were constantly talking. I got an attorney's appointment here, I've got a doctor's appointment here with the kids, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, what's going on for Mom's birthday? We were always talking.
Police emergency. My brother has not been answering texts or cell phone calls or emails, and I could be making a mountain out of a molehill.
On the morning that he didn't answer his work phone and he didn't answer his cell phone, I thought, this is getting a little weird. I just knew something was wrong.
A deputy is dispatched to meet Robin at Craig's house.
So when patrol met with Robin Drew, patrol ended up entering the house.
Craig?
They found that nobody was in the house.
We had an individual who had a very regular pattern of life. There was no suspicion of, you know, him just up and leaving for no reason. But there was no sign of Craig at the house.
It's now 18 hours since Robin has heard from Craig.
Now things are starting to seem very suspicious and certainly made it believe that something bad could have happened. And at that point, Major Crimes was notified, and that's when I ended up responding to the scene.
Monroe County requests a warrant for a full house search.
So once I arrived, I spoke to the investigators that were already on scene. As we're waiting for the search warrant to be signed, we saw a vehicle pull up that contained Laura Rideout, a male, and a couple of children.
Craig's wife, you say?
I asked Laura a couple of questions. I asked, why she was there and what was going on. She said she had come over in the morning to pick up the kids. She then went to a doctor's appointment and then shopping, and she was bringing the kids back because it was time for them to come back.
Have you seen Craig at all lately?
No.
She told me she had no idea.
As part of it, any missing person investigation, one of the things we look to do is to find out if they had a cell phone with them.
Robin gave us his cell phone number.
I'm gonna get off the phone company.
Yes.
The carrier always knows where that phone is roughly, just so that when a call comes in, they can make contact.
Yeah, I need a ping on a phone.
So in this case, the ping showed that the phone was in fact down in Yates County.
Our 911 dispatch center got a call around 7:53 in the morning. A local farmer was riding his bicycle when he saw some blood stains in the dirt there, and he walked off into the brush. That's when he observed a brownish-colored tarp. We sent the patrol deputy who got there around, I'd say around 8 o'clock that morning. He could see some blood stains along the shoulder of the road. There appeared to be some tire tracks. The local farmer showed him in the brush where this tarp was rolled up. He knew right away we probably had a homicide.
They could tell it's a male. What it appeared to them was that someone had come down with the intention of burying this person, but something was done to try to disfigure this person, putting acid on them in order to make them less identifiable. Whatever substance was used to cause the disfigurement was so powerful that it ate through clothing, plastic buttons. It was quite a gruesome scene.
They also provided information about plastic seals from some type of a bottle top being found in the tarp with the victim. We were assuming at that point that we may have part of the bottles of whatever was poured on that victim. A straight-edge shovel was found.
And one could surmise logically that the intent was to bury this body in tarp, but it was not the kind of shovel that I would have wanted to use to dig a hole like that. Investigator Manahan and Investigator Butler were both leaning down, looking at this body, which they didn't want to disturb, while they were hovered over the body. Manahan, he looks at Butler and says, "Answer your phone, man." And Butler looks back at him and says, "Answer your phone." And they looked at each other, and the phone continued to ring. The phone is ringing from the body in the tarp.
First responders had called that phone in an attempt to contact Craig.
We always have to wait to make a proper positive identification. But I think at that point in the investigation, we knew what was going on, and we knew that our victim was no longer a missing person. Whoever did this didn't transport a live victim down there, so our assumption was that we would find the crime scene either at the victim's home or somewhere in our county.
Their victim's advocate approached me and said, "We're not sure. There has been a body found. He may have been a victim of serious foul play."
We told her, although we don't have any positive confirmation, it was very possible that the individual found there was potentially her brother.
The emotions that I was feeling were shock and anger, but I was still I kind of went numb because I still wanted to be of assistance in getting the people who were responsible for doing this to him.
To start with, is there anything you can think of, anything at all?
But Robin knew that she needed to give us more detail, more information for our investigation. She really had to set aside an incredible amount of grief. It must have been very difficult for her.
I believe there was a camera in his clock on his computer desk.
Craig either had a hidden camera or a webcam that might have been running. And so when we entered the house as part of executing the search warrant, that was one of the first things we were looking for.
Craig set up the hidden camera for security.
Just into what would be the kitchen, there was a desk, and I noticed that a small hidden camera that was disguised as a clock.
See if you can find a card or something.
And we were pretty excited. Where that table was, if you were coming anywhere through that house, you would have had to have passed that camera. Our digital forensics people are able to open it, and there's an SD card in it. Again, great excitement that we're going to have this crime, we're going to have everything we need captured right here on the tape.
As I watched video after video, I found video of just his young son sitting there working on a computer. I found a number of just day-to-day videos captured on it. And unfortunately, that memory card appears to have been filled up. It didn't overwrite itself, it just stopped recording. So I didn't have anything captured of the actual crime. After the letdown of the video, I joined the rest of the group that was still searching the house.
As we got to the basement stairs and looked down the basement stairs, we saw some cardboard boxes.
There was a partially empty Diet Coke bottle that was sitting on the floor. And I remember a black plastic garbage bag, and I kneeled down and tore the bag open, and it was there that I found paper towels that appeared to have been used to absorb blood.
You're going to want to take a look at this.
As I looked through that bag, there was enough that was alarming me to say, this is absolutely our crime scene. The next bag I opened had a leather work glove that clearly looked like it had blood on it. And it also had a makeshift garrote. At this phase of it, we wanted to use what's referred to as an alternative light source that will allow them to see any blood that would be left over. And in this case, We had spatter on boxes, on the walls, on the floor, all over. We knew that this was a violent crime scene. Now, we absolutely knew not only did we have our scene, but we had very likely a murder weapon.
The body, believed to be Craig Rideout, was found 50 miles southeast of Craig's home.
Now knowing that we had the murder scene in Monroe County, Yates County had the victim down in their county, we got cellular records from the victim's cell phone. The carrier captured a number of rough locations of where this phone was.
Due to that, we're able to kind of plot out the route that's taken from Craig's house down to Yates County. We then canvassed that entire route looking for any cameras that might have caught anything along the way.
We collected hundreds of hours of video. We started to now review that video. We're looking for the vehicle that was used to transport him to his grave.
Detectives pull up footage from a hotel halfway to the makeshift burial site.
I was pretty certain they had traveled on this one road. We knew that that victim's phone had left his home shortly after 3 a.m., and traffic is very light at 3 a.m.
You're hoping to see license plates, distinguishing characteristics of the vehicle. If you're real lucky, maybe you get a shot of a driver. Anything we can see.
Pause it.
What that video showed was two vehicles traveling between here and the makeshift burial site.
Zoom in on that.
These cameras, they don't capture the license plates or those kind of identifying characteristics we're looking for. But Craig Rideout's phone is hitting the cell phone tower or speaking to the cell phone tower at the exact same time it's passing those cameras.
Is that a sedan with a van?
We had what we believed to be the victim's van traveling closely with another vehicle. And from the body, it looks like a sedan.
With almost no traffic on the road, detectives suspect these vehicles are traveling in convoy.
We're very confident that Craig is in one of those vehicles.
Check if they come back the same way. Go forward a couple hours.
Investigators view the same camera later that morning.
Now we see the same two vehicles returning, but now we're seeing them in daylight.
One clearly a minivan, and one clearly a sedan.
They scroll through more cameras on the same route.
We found 6 or 7 spots where video showed clearly two vehicles.
We started to find those two cars traveling always together, right behind one another, over and over again. Although we were able to capture the two vehicles traveling back towards Monroe County, we ultimately couldn't find where they went.
And we know that there's two vehicles involved at this point, which would obviously mean more than one person is involved in this murder.
The medical examiner confirms the body found in Yates County is Robin's brother, Craig Rideout.
We go to my mom's house. I call her, wake her up, say, we're coming in. I need to talk to you. And she obviously knew something was up. She was heartbroken. We comforted each other, and we still comfort each other. One of the things that my brother Craig did when he was given his divorce summons, he said, I am going to conduct myself with dignity and grace. We agreed that we would carry on his commitment of holding your head up high with dignity and grace. In private, I'm not always put together. I have my moments of, I'm gonna let it go. But in the same vein of honoring Craig, dignity and grace, not losing it for everybody to see.
Investigators process the physical evidence found alongside Craig's body.
When Yates County did their crime scene investigation, they recovered a shovel. And on that shovel was a UPC code.
And it gave us a good starting point for us to start looking at where this product is sold. There were no other of that specific model shovels sold anywhere in our area inside of the week, with the exception of just one, and it happened to be the closest Walmart to our victim's house. Big retailers usually have good video that we can go back on.
They had sold a shovel sometime after midnight, about a day prior to the crime.
Do you mind if I take a look at your footage?
Can you start this at midnight?
I see a sedan pull up.
That car looks very similar to the car we had seen in our traffic cameras. The vehicle sits there for a minute.
Zoom in on that for me.
I ultimately see what I believe to be a male emerge from that car from the back seat and walk to the front door.
Do you have any other cameras?
Now I have a much better lit image. My excitement level jumps right up. This is going to be one of the most crazy cases that I've been a part of working on.
look at that mail, we realize that that's Colin Rideout, that's Craig Rideout's son.
You follow him around the store?
We jump around trying to see what he's buying in the store, and we end up at the cash register. It's an overhead view looking down.
And at the register, we see him take from his cart and place on the conveyor that same shovel that we had seen down in Yates County. And then he puts 4 sets of work gloves on the conveyor belt as well. At that point, we know that Colin Rideout, for sure, is involved in this murder. And I believe that more people were involved in this murder.
As exciting of a lead it was to see Colin Rideout standing at that register, it still was a little perplexing, because to think that the son could be involved in this, it was too hard to even believe. We watched him pay for those items and then exit the store. I had already seen the car out in the parking lot. I knew that Colin didn't get out of the driver's seat. Now we catch glimpses where you could see silhouettes in the car, but there weren't ever great views.
Go back to the entrance.
The entrance camera happened to look out from the doorway. This car pulls right up to the crosswalk, and now we have a much better image of the vehicle.
We see a driver, we see someone in the passenger side front seat, and someone in the rear driver's side seat.
We could very confidently say there were 3 other individuals in that car.
Can you clean up that image?
We try everything we can do to enhance the video, to do whatever we can to try and see who the 3 people are with Colin. Ultimately, we can't tell who the 3 people are. We just know that there's 3 people. We'd worked all night, and we were just to the point where we kind of thought we were going to go home for the day. But then we get a call, and we're alerted to our patrol had responded to a place called Devil's Bathtub. Well, a lady was up walking in the park. She saw 2 males carrying garbage bags from the trunk of their vehicle down to the pond and throwing those bags into the pond. When we get there, we see that the deputies have the 2 individuals separated. Myself and my partner, we walked up, introduced ourselves. It was clear that this was Colin Rideout and Alex Rideout. All the while, we were recording on covert iPhone. We were recording our conversation.
So what's going on? You and your brother out for a walk?
I mean, we were just like out, and then suddenly people show up, and it's like, well, I've never really encountered police before, so it was like,
How old are you?
I'm doing college next year.
And I started talking to him about his father, his relationship with his father, if he was nervous that he hadn't heard from his father.
He'd always threaten, oh, I could just disappear. And I figured he was on the next flight to Mexico. Have you heard anything from your dad?
Well, I emailed him last night. I didn't hear from him. I've been kind of worried about him for, stuff's just been freaking me out.
And at that time, the fire department had responded, and they were going to try and recover the bags from the pond. So I put my arm around Colin and I said, Colin, they're going to bring those bags into the shore.
You tell me what's in that bag before I see what's in that bag, it'll be better for you.
You know, I don't know what's in the bag.
At that point, we went back to the parking lot where we found Alex.
Alex, do you have any idea where your dad is?
Alex was not at all shy about the fact that he did not like his father, and it was quite obvious that Alex idolized Colin. At that point, Alex gets a little restless with us, and he decides he wants to end the conversation. What I did at that time is I directed the road patrol deputies to bring them to get some food, whatever fast food restaurant they want to go to, but make sure they get drinks. We were able to recover the straws from those drinks that we had purchased their lunch with, and we used those straws to get our DNA profiles. At this point, we've recovered the bag. In those garbage bags, we find 4 bottles of drain cleaner. The bottles of drain cleaner have those plastic pull-off tops found at the crime scene, but they also contain UPC codes, or ways to track the purchase of those, similar to the shovel.
We found clothing that was clearly bloody.
So we bring Alex and Colin to the interview rooms. Ultimately, they don't want to talk anymore at that point. We don't want to let them go. We have a lot of evidence to further analyze. So the decision is made that we're going to arrest them for tampering with physical evidence.
So what we find down at Devil's Bathtub, it gives us what we believe now to be 2 of the individuals that we saw or likely saw in that car. But I don't think the boys were the mastermind or the brains behind the operation. We had recovered what we believed to be the likely bottles of drain cleaner or acid, which had likely been poured on the victim. This gave us a new jump-off point to start looking at where those bottles had been purchased. And so we reached out to Walmart to see if they could tell us dates and times and locations of where such products had been purchased.
Did you sell drain cleaner?
One transaction that we went to look at was one that occurred on the 18th.
Can you bring me up footage from the 18th?
I'm able to focus on the actual purchase. I see the 2 bottles of drain cleaner set up on the belt, and then I see who I recognize as Craig Rideout making this purchase.
Can you follow him?
I see Colin walking out by himself with the items he just purchased. We went back to focus on the outside cameras. And then all of a sudden, I see someone that I recognize. A short distance behind Colin was his mother, Laura Rideout. That just added to our suspicion that we had more family members directly involved with this.
Take that back about 20 minutes.
I start watching all of the Walmart video chronologically from the time Colin would have first entered the store. Colin is entering the store with his mother, Laura. I can finally tie Laura to the actual purchase of that drain cleaner that we know was involved in this.
Investigators work to trace the purchase of the other items found at the scene.
So from the evidence down in Yates County, a large brown tarp recovered. And we were able to find that purchase being made at a Walmart on Hudson Avenue.
On the 19th, we knew that a transaction had occurred around 9 p.m.
Walking in through the front doors, coming from the parking lot, we see Laura Rideout with another man. They appear to be two regular shoppers. And that male is Paul Tucci. We know Paul Tucci as being Laura's new companion.
Can you follow them around the store?
We see Laura and the male looking at these tarps, and they seem to be shopping. Is this one good? What about this? Just as you would shop for groceries.
You can see the tarp, which we believe to be the tarp found with the victim wrapped in it.
They check out, and they leave just like any other couple would leave with their purchases.
Police believe they now have all their suspects caught on camera. DNA tests are carried out on several of the items that were taken into evidence.
The clothes Colin Rideout is wearing when he purchased that shovel are clothes that we recover from bags being disposed of at Mendon Ponds Park. That blood belonged to Craig Rideout. Alex Rideout, we have his DNA on items of clothing that are located in the basement of the home. Laura Rideout, she's wearing pants that have blood spatter on them. DNA matches those to Craig Rideout. We have Laura Rideout's DNA on a Diet Coke that was found in the basement.
The T-shirt and shorts Paul Tucci wears at the store are never recovered.
Video footage really helped make this case. I mean, the video footage is what gives us the route of the car going south. It gives us the route of the car coming back north.
It certainly gives us, our suspects in this case, purchasing those items that we've recovered at the scenes.
Without the video, this case would have been near impossible to solve. All these pieces of evidence were brought together in a way to form a case to charge 4 individuals for the murder of Craig Rideout. So ultimately, the case goes to trial.
The 4 defendants appoint separate attorneys. Each claim their client has no motive for murder. Laura and Colin Rideout are found guilty of second-degree murder and receive life sentences. Alex Rideout is found guilty of tampering with evidence and is sentenced to 4 years. Paul Tucci is acquitted on all charges due to a lack of evidence.
When they came out and they found the 2 boys and the estranged wife guilty, that was a sense of justice.
Through their investigation, detectives develop a theory of how Craig died and why. Laura and Craig were going through a divorce and custody battle.
Laura Rideout wanted to move to North Carolina. Laura had to have figured out a way to get Craig out of the way so that they could move their family. The plan was sneak into Craig's house. They had a key to the house. They were going to try and lure Craig into the basement, take the garrote, choke him out, take him down to Yates County. They were going to bury him. They were going to come back. What they didn't count on was Craig Rideout was going to fight for his life. There was a lot of fighting. That caused a lot of blood. That cleanup is what causes this plot to fail.
Only those present know for sure who dealt the fatal blows.
I know that Craig's estranged wife, she didn't just kill my brother. She took away a son, she took away an uncle, she took away a father, and in so doing, took away a mother to her own children because she's behind bars for the rest of her life. The fact that 2 of Craig's own children were culpable in this crime is mind-blowing to me. I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he wanted nothing more than his relationship with his youngest children and to rebuild the relationship with his older children. He held his head up high, and he lived with dignity and grace, and that is how I want him to be remembered.